지금부터
Let's
글로벌
get started.
스마트 시티를 위한
From now
스타트업
on,
혁신과
we're
지원
going to
체계
start
그리고
the
스스로
forum
소개하는
on
세션을
innovative
시작하도록
deep
하겠습니다.
tech solutions
저는
for
본투
smart
글로벌
cities.
센터
I
글로벌
am from
사업 협력 팀장
Born2Global Center.
장석진입니다.
I am CEO Chang
최고의
Seok-jin.
혁신 기술 스타트업들을
From now
모시고
on,
본
I would
세션을
like to
진행하게 되어서
invite
큰
the
영광으로
state-of-the-art startup
앞으로 1시간
companies.
동안
For the
스마트
next
시티,
2 hours,
시흥시뿐만 아니라 글로벌
we
스마트
will
시티들을
talk
위한
about
각 분야별 혁신적인 솔루션을
various innovative
혁신
solutions
기업들의
for Siheung
직접
City as well as
소개를
for the global
글로벌
cities.
청중을 감안해서 사회는
For
영어로
global
진행하고
audience,
각
the
기업들은
moderator will
한국어,
speak in
영어 등
English,
선호하는 언어로
and companies, the
발표하도록
presenters,
Hello
may
and
speak
welcome to
in
the
whatever
session,
language you
The
want.
Innovative Deep Tech Solutions for Smart Cities. We've gathered for the first time 7 deep tech companies that will present innovative solutions for smart cities. My name is Seok-jin Chang, Director for Global Cooperation at Korea's Born2Global Center. The Born2Global Center is providing consultation services and global expansion services for the companies that will be presenting today. And we are also devising a new initiative through the formation of joint ventures between these startups and global potential partner startups for their overseas expansion. So with that, I would like to invite our first company to the stage, The Wave Talk. Now you all understand that water quality is an essence of life. And the logo of the Wave Talk is the startup that saved the most lives on Earth. I hope that you will see that they have a breakthrough and immediately applicable solution for water quality testing. So it is with my honor that I'd like to present Mr. Young-Deok Kim, the CEO of The Wave Talk. Mr. Kim?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is my great honor. 안녕하세요. 더 웨이브 톡의 co-founder이자 대표이사를 맡고 있는 김영덕입니다. 좀 전에 멋진 연주가 있었는데 공교롭게도 제목이 Moon in the Water였던 것 같아요. I'm going to talking about bacteria, microplastic in the water. 물속에 달만 있으면 좋은데 우리가 원하지 않는 이 물질들이 있어요. 그것이 어떤 문제를 일으키는지, 그것이 얼마나 많은 생명을 해치고 있는지, 그리고 어떻게 해야지 그 문제를 해결할 수 있는지 말씀드리겠습니다.
To be the things that I'll be talking about today. So the global water market has a size of 800 trillion won and is increasing by 5% every year. So since no one can live without water, the universal access right to clean water, when it comes to such access, money does not matter because it's a basic right. However, every year, children under the age of 5 are losing their lives after drinking contaminated water. The number of these lives are 5,000 million. 500,000. So why are we having these problems? So this image is showing the process of how water is being delivered to each household. In Korea, there is a water pipeline that has a length of 200,000. This is a length that can go around the globe like a few times. In America, there is a water pipeline of 3 million. And in some cases, they are old as 90 years old. On the very right side, you can see the facility that collects water. This is where the water becomes clean. And they arrive at households after going through the globe like 5 times or in maximum 30 times. So water contamination can create bacteria or other dirty impurities. And the inconsistency due to the old white pipeline can contribute in delivering dirty water to people. So the problem is that sensor to measure how clean the water is outside the reservoir. So why is it? There is only one reason, because the cost is very expensive, like 10 million Korean won. So this is what I would like to tell you. All the air quality measurement has a sensor in the world.
어떤 정수기에도 수질 센서가 없습니다.
However, the things are very different when it comes to water. No water purification plant has any sensor. Why is it? The bacteria, one of the things inside the water, or microplastic or virus, has very similar reflective rate with water. So it's very easy to identify particles in water. However, when it comes to water, it can cost at least 10 million won or even more than that to have a sensor. So from our perspective,
심하게는 8배 정도 초과해야지만 이 물이 탁하다고 느낄 수 있습니다.
we can actually feel that this water is turbid when it's exceeding the legal level by 8 times or 4 times. So these problems are not happening only in Africa. A lot of people are losing their lives in the United States as well. And just a while ago, a person had lost his life due to dirty water. And some cases are happening in Korea as well. In Incheon last year, 400,000 people were harmed. So whenever there is a water contamination incident, it can impact numerous people. So the sensor can be something small, accessible, and cost-effective, but we don't have any of these. So I think I told you that in water purification plant and reservoir, there are water quality sensors. So this is what you see on the image. It can be in maximum 10 million Korean won, including the installation cost. So the product sensor module that we tested for the last 3 months is costing approximately 1/8 of the cost that is being massively produced by other countries. When it is produced like 1,000, the maintenance period of other companies is 1 week to 4 weeks, but ours is 3 months to maximum 6 months. So in order to manage the water quality of one nation, there can be numerous turbidity measurements devices. So every week or every 4 weeks, they have to be cleaned, which requires a numerous amount of cost. The market cost will be 1/8, and the maintenance period will be much longer. This product will be launched next year globally. So we have a motto, any time, anywhere, by anyone, so that anyone can measure water quality at any time. So for the first time in the world, we developed such devices. So the products on the right side are the products being sold in the market. As you can see, the cost is 1,500 or in maximum 6,000. So that is why you don't have any sensors in your homes. However, in our company, we have already ordered mass production of these devices. And as the mass production expands, the price will be only $50, which means we can drastically reduce the number of incidents that can be created by water contamination.
수천 번의 테스트를 거쳐서 기존에 있는 수천 불짜리
So this is a result of a comparison after we did some turbidity measurements. If you connect with a smartphone, just in 10 seconds, you can identify whether the glass of water in front of you is something you can drink or not. It's not something just a reference. It's designated by WHO. It's a legal definition. Maybe you think it's just all same, transparent, but the water that violated the legal regulation can contain a lot of things such as microplastic, heavy metal, or bacteria. Currently, B2C cups and B2C online turbidity measurements are developed by us, and they will be developed to become a version that can be used outdoors. So not only filters in households, but also the water quality can be measured by this sensor. So currently, as you can see the red places in the middle, we developed a sensor with a size of approximately 2 fingers and will be launching around the world. And if that happens, the sense kit, the turbidity measurement, will be attached. And the cost will be only 1% of the existing current products. It seems like a lie, but that's the truth. With just 1% of the cost, we will be able to reduce the cost of the public health. So according to our calculation, in Korea, every year, there is 15 trillion won being cost for the water management. But if just 1% will be used in the sensor, we will never have the same incident such as Incheon red water. I think you're very familiar with this image. On the same day in New York streets, the left side is having things like horses, but on the right side, all you can see are vehicles. Just in 13 years, the horses that human beings have been riding have disappeared. And there's one thing not known to many people. Most of the vehicles on the right side is coming from a model of one company, T of Ford. So even till now, the Model T of Ford company has been recorded as one of the most sold vehicles. But why was that so? It was because of the cost. Back then, the cost of vehicles of competitor companies was 3,000. But this one, it was only 800, about 25%. And after then, Ford reduced the price even more, and the price became $300. So just 10% of the price enabled the people from the middle-income families or lower-income families to buy vehicles, and that became the power to change the life, change the world. So I think all of you are having this smartphone. Due to the development of semiconductor and technologies, we are having smartphone. Before such development, maybe the cost of this smartphone would have had been 100 million won. But thanks to the technologies, the world has changed. My first company was a lithium-ion battery company, and I exported the technology to many countries around the world, and I was a very successful CEO. And I met Park Young-gun, the co-founder, and I was very attracted by a lot of technologies in the food and water area, and that is how I started the new startup. One thing that I was very satisfied about doing is that when these products are introduced to the world, I could actually identify whether there are any needs for this product or not in advance. And only the companies with sales above 1 trillion won had contracts with our company, and such number is above 20. So for the past, a lot of ambitious Korean people gathered together and finally developed this product, sensor. When we first talked about the period 1 year, we thought that it would be a lie. Some were very skeptic that it wouldn't be realized. However, we are very proud to say that we are now ready to introduce this product to the world. So do we really need a water sensor? Some people may ask. So let's imagine there is a fire on a building of 30 floors. Let's say there is no fire alarm on that building. Well, at least fire is something we can see. However, since we don't have any water sensor, The social costs of OECD member countries are enormous. The IoT water sensor will be a game changer that saves life. The startup who saved the most lives on Earth. That's what we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Wave Talk. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions from the floor if we have any questions. By the way, the Wave Talk is actually currently talking with various municipalities in Korea and also around the world to introduce both water quality sensors from the water providers as well as at the very end where the users are. I believe we have one question, sir.
너무 좋은 강의 감사드리고
Thank you
혹시
very much
이제
for your
이
inspiring presentation.
물 센서를 그 이제 시나
So
그
this
지역
water sensor,
이제 정부랑 이야기하실 때
when you were discussing with city municipalities or governments, so which part of the governments did you discuss with? There can be water management side,
뭐 스마트시티나
or smart city side, or innovation side, or welfare side. So which part of the government did you discuss with?
스타트업 하셔서 실제로는 이제
Since you started this startup and did business.
에서 실제로 이걸 시작해야 되는 거라고 생각하는데 개인이 하는
Well, personally, I think that it should be started from the public side, not by an individual. Well, thank you very much for your question. I really was actually waiting for such question. So there can be 2 categories. The first one is the water supply institutes. For example, the K-Water, the water supply divisions, are responsible for providing water to each household. So in the past, there were some people who were concerned that maybe it can cause inconvenience to people in the household. But actually, in reality, there are a lot of people who are very afraid that this can cause problems. So in order to provide our product, we are going through a format validation. And one thing that I really would like to note in this occasion is that we have a very clean smart city, but actually the water pipelines will have to last for tens of years. With the IoT sensor at the end of the water, and then we will be able to monitor the quality of water. In that sense, that is a whole true sense of what smart city should be. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much, the Wave Talk. Now let's move on to our next company. We've talked about water, but let's talk about another inevitable part of city life, which is waste. And now I have the honor of presenting to you eCube Labs, which has taken waste management and integrated all the smart solutions in terms of waste management. eCube Labs.
만나뵙게 돼서 반갑습니다.
Nice to meet with you all.
스마트 웨이스트 매니지먼트 솔루션을 제공하고 있는 eCube
I
랩의
am
이상희
from
팀장이라고
eCube
합니다.
Labs,
반갑습니다.
offering smart waste management solution.
방금 소개해 주신 것처럼
As,
아마 전 세계에 살아가면서
introduced previously,
꼭 필요한 것 중에 하나는
One of the
폐기물
most
처리
essential
시스템이
thing
아닐까라고
in urban life
처음부터
is
생각을 시작을
waste
했습니다.
management system.
저희는 2011년부터
Our
폐기물 처리
company
관련한
was founded
하드웨어
from
및 소프트웨어를 제공하고
2011,
있는 업체이고요.
offering hardware and
저희가
software
스타트업으로
for managing
시작해서
waste.
아직까지 좀 배고픈 회사이기도
Still,
합니다.
we are a small-sized
간단하게 저희
company.
제품부터
I will first would like to briefly explain about
전 세계 시장이
our
어떻게
products,
진행되고 있는지
and I will also explain about the current status of waste management market across the world.
지금 화면에 보이시는 것처럼
On the slide,
저희 회사에서는
you are
총 3개의
seeing
하드웨어
our
제품과
3 main
그것과
hardware
연결된
products and software connected to those hardware. When we say IoT, Koreans may be familiar with what IoT is, but in terms of the international community, many people across the world may not be familiar with IoT, or IoT may have just begun to be adopted by companies. Our company is based on IoT technology, making use of the data collected from various sensors and digital devices. Our hardware products are CleanCube, CleanFlex, and CleanTrack. And the data from these three types of hardware are provided to Clean City Network, which is a software product. This is the first hardware we developed. This is called CleanCube. It is a trash bin. It uses solar power panel, so it uses green energy. And when waste is filled up inside the bin, it is automatically compressed, and it produces data about the level of waste filled up inside the bin, and the data is shared with our network software. Our CEO was once walking the street of Sinchon, and he saw a lot of trash bin overflowing with waste. That's when he was a college student. So as a college student, he thought, how I can make improvement in those dirty streets, the street with overflowing bins. That's how the idea came up. The way you look, so you may feel that the bin looks very simple. So once people put trash into the bin, the trash may be piled up inside the bin, and if it reaches a certain level or amount, then it automatically compresses the trash. And inside the bin, we can identify the amount of waste piled up. So through 3G network and LTE technology, also through LP1 communication technology, the relevant data from the bin will be transmitted to our software network. This is a sensor which is called CleanFlex. Now we're using TOF sensor, which can be easily seen from your smartphones. Municipalities are using trash bins, and we wanted to transform those trash bins on the street and the trash bin in the residential area into smarter trash bins. And if you install this small sensor onto the ordinary trash bin, then the trash bin will serve as a smart bin. Depending on the amount of waste piled up inside the bin, you can automatically and on a real-time basis manage the waste through the use of the sensor. And through our waste management system, we see a lot of data related to the storage and management of trash. And another important part is collection of waste. So we install a tracker on the vehicle that collects waste. By putting the sensor on this track, we can identify how much waste has been collected from how many spots, and we can make more efficient management of the waste. So there are a variety of GPS sensors installed on fleet vehicles, but there are not many trackers installed on trash fleet vehicles that transfer the information about the waste. That's why we developed this clean truck. So all these solutions are connected to the Clean City Network, which is a software. It is based on our hope to make the city a cleaner place. And location of the bin was previously known only to the people in the city or municipality government in charge of waste management. But they could not identify how much waste is filled up inside the trash bin, or whether they have to collect the waste from the trash bin on the public places or not. So by using the connection between our software's Clean City network with the hardware sensors on the trash bin, the people in charge of waste management as city government will be easily able to identify how much waste is filled up in the trash bin and when they need to send the trash collection vehicles. For example, depending on the data, they can make more efficient decisions. For example, today I can send only 4 vehicles to collect the waste, or today I need to send more than 5 vehicles to collect the waste. So with the development of cities, we face a lot of problems in the environment in the cities. And if you look at waste market, they seem to be always located on the priority area. So if you look at places crowded by people, you will see an increasing amount of waste. So we developed these hardware products and software to make the management of the trash collection cost and monitoring on the status of waste more efficient. And we are continuously enhancing our solutions. There are many benefits from our products, and our main products provide advantages from 4 aspects: economic, environment, social, and promotional. As for economic aspect, our trash bin enables you to save or reduce waste management cost. So by identifying the amount of waste piled up inside the bin, you can efficiently make decision over how often you have to collect and retrieve the waste from the bin, and that will lead to saving cost. And in terms of the environment, whether it be waste, municipal waste or other types of waste, any type of waste will bring about pollutions to the environment and negative impact on health. So by using our products, we can minimize the negative impact from trash on the environment. In terms of social aspect, we can help the citizens live a healthier life. And the trash bin itself is very smart. So this trash bin can be an opportunity for cities to make some promotional event, for example, to improve their image as environment-friendly and smart city. Our company was founded from 2011. When we first started our business back then, we faced a lot of challenges because people did not have clear concept about smart city, and IoT-related technologies were not really commercialized in the market. And in the waste market, the biggest problem was the concept of people or stereotype, because people just wanted to continue using traditional way of collecting and managing waste. When we met with the municipal governments, the most difficult thing for us was to convince the people in charge of collecting and managing waste. And there are people cleaning up the waste and collecting the trash from the trash bin. Many of those people have been doing such work for the past 30 years, and they didn't feel any inconveniences in doing so. So it was difficult to convince them that they need to use the smarter system and check the data. But we received support and assistance from the municipalities. And actually, the municipal government had a clear goal of moving the waste management to more smarter direction, but still we had challenges in convincing the relevant people in charge of these matters to move more towards to the smart waste management. And these days, due to COVID-19 and many social issues appeared, now more and more people are asking us to provide them with information about the smart waste management. So in terms of the market potential, we think that the smart waste management market has very high potential. I would like to share with you the case examples. We have supplied our products and solutions to 96 cities across the world in 120 countries. So in some countries, they have we supply the system to one city or more than two cities. And Everland is the representative case where we apply the smart waste management system. Everland is a famous amusement park in Korea. Everland found that they collected waste 6 times a day. And they identify the time and cost taken for collecting waste 6 times a day. And the time and costs were tremendous. So we started to cooperate with Everland. And on May 5th, which is the Day of the Children, Everland had to accommodate a huge number of people. So on such day, Everland had to collect the waste bin much more often. And with the help of our system, they were able to reduce the workload of the people in charge of collecting trash from the bin. Because after installing our system in Everland, the Everland people just collected the waste several times on the 4th of May and 6th of May, not on the 5th of May, which was supposed to be the busiest day. Another example of our product installation is in Hermosa Beach in the USA. The people in the city wanted to use the bin to make the city cleaner and look more beautiful. Also, we supplied our solution to Shanghai. If you look at the photo, you will see the trash bin with a silver color cap. That is Clean Flex. In Shanghai, there were already many trash bins on the street. Shanghai is a quite developed city, and Shanghai is investing a lot in R&D, and they already installed such trash bin. And by applying our solution to the trash bin, they were able to make the management of the waste and the trash bin management smarter. And our product is not just about managing generation and collection of waste, but in the aspect of waste collection, there are many vertical matters to be managed. So we are developing comprehensive solutions to help cities better manage their waste.
That was eCube Labs. Do you have any questions from the floor? If not, I'm sure that you will be able to find a lot of eCube Labs waste bins around, and we'll see more even here at Siheung in the days to come. Thank you very much again for eCube Labs. We've talked about waste. We've talked about water. Now let's move on to more complex but another critical subject, safety. There's a lot of data in smart cities, space-related and time-related. D-Tonic is a company that has taken data, analysis, processing into a whole new level. Please, D-Tonic.
안녕하십니까. D-Tonic 대표 전용주입니다. Hello everybody. Nice to meet you.
모두 안녕하세요. 김용주입니다.
한국에서 COVID-19
So in Korea, ICT technologies are being used in order to fight against the COVID-19. This is going to be the topic of my presentation today. So first of all, let me give you some brief information about deep tonnage. We call it spatial temporal data. This is what we have expertise in. We spinned off from Hyundai Motor Company in 2014. We have approximately 123 patents and 16 copyrights. So since we have a lot of network, we have a lot of network with the professors as well. And we are working on a lot of global projects as well. Last year, as a leader of startup, I went to Norway, Sweden, and in Spain, we were the only accelerating company in Asia. And we are constantly advancing to the global area now with our company. So let me move on with the presentation. So is there any one of you who knows the number of newly confirmed patients in Korea? It's approximately 100, but in the United States, things are much more serious. It's approximately 900,000. The problem is that things cannot be prevented, things cannot be stopped. It's very unfortunate, but we will have to live with this virus. It will be in our daily lives. So if you take a look at this data, you can see all the red spots. Things will be more serious, and since the weather is becoming colder, since we're approaching winter in the northern hemisphere, things are going to be even more serious. So this is an example of UK. It's an ongoing issue, but some European areas are having lockdown in order to prevent COVID-19. The ultimate measure, they can come up with lockdown. So through the lockdown measurement, they can dramatically reduce the number of contamination, infection. So their objective is to reduce the number of R below 1. So what happened in UK? Of course, the number of confirmed cases have been reduced, but the economy, things were just devastated. So R, to keep it under 1, a lot of people gather together to think about how they can reduce the number R below 1. So one measure can be lockdown, another can be vaccination, but another can be testing, tracing, and isolate. The third one seemed to be quite effective in reducing the number of confirmed cases, in preventing the spread of coronavirus. So this is Marble Hero. So the hero has appeared in Korea. So thankfully, the people working in the medical arena and also so the children, very young children, are wearing masks, and by utilizing ICT, we were able to keep the number R under 1 after putting a lot of effort. So in this occasion, I would like to deliver my sincere gratitude to all the people who gave their effort. But the 19th case and the 31st case, these patients made the city Daegu to become locked down. It was severe. The super spreader. After this super spreader, the number of confirmed cases increased dramatically. So till then, the epidemiological survey personnel had to do interviews, do tracing one by one in order to find out which locations this super spreader has went to, which people they contacted, and how things were infected. So I think you all know who this person is, the head of Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention. When she was first doing the briefing in March, her hair was all black, but just in 1 month, you can see that her hair became gray. So the people working on the disease control and prevention, they put a lot of effort. So regarding K-quarantine and 3T, so we have a lot of good testing kits and traces. And epidemiological system, which I'll be introducing about, contributed in tracing the disease and in order to reduce the number of confirmed patients. Quarantine were done quite well. So I would like to continue talking about trace. So we call it epidemiological investigation support system. So by using and utilizing this system, the number of confirmed cases can be reduced quite a lot. And in the past, it took 24 hours to conduct the epidemiological survey, do all the interviews. But with the ICT and big data, things could be done only in 10 minutes. So since we could help all these people in the epidemiological survey, we were very happy. It could not only control but also could predict where the virus can spread by using the AI technology. So I think I'll have to send my gratitude to a lot of people. The people in the Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transportation, the people of the Ministry of Science and ICT, and also Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention. But actually there is an R&D going on under the Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transportation called City Hub. So just imagine about how much money and effort were given in building this City Hub platform. So thanks to this system, we could create this, the system that I'm introducing about, and thus reduce the number of confirmed cases. So in Korea, there are a lot of projects going on regarding coronavirus 19, and I believe that this system, City Data Hub, will contribute a lot. So I think with the AI, things are becoming much more intelligent these days. So with the AI, intelligent epidemic investigation system has been created. So not only predicting, not only identifying where these people were infected, but also we will be able to predict and control the spread of coronavirus disease. We are still working on this development. So everything can be made as a database. It will be quite effective. And we will be able to develop K-disinfection ICT solution. The case will be application. It's very outstanding. So actually, this is an electronic register of the people going in and out of the country. With that, we are planning to export this system to overseas countries, the K-quarantine ICT solution package. But there's one thing I want to note. So big data. So what is this spatio-temporal big data? You may be curious. So let me introduce about what spatio-temporal data is. So in case of autonomous vehicles, it creates 4 terabyte data per day. We are working on the autonomous vehicles as well. And 90% of produced data is from the past 2 years, and this period is becoming shorter and shorter. And in 2025, 65 billion IoT devices will be created, and they will be producing enormous amount of data. So it is expected that globally 163 trillion gigabyte of data will be generated. Then what's important is that 80% of all data is spatial temporal. So what is spatial temporal data? It's a multidimensional data that has aspects of spatial and temporal. So in an unexpected situation, we are always creating spatial temporal data, whether it's by using the navigation when driving or by using smartphones. In this year, we had a big fire in Gangwon province. But with the spatial temporal data, we could analyze things and reduce the possibility of mountain fires. So big data, it's not something very difficult. This has been existing from the past. But there was one big problem, which is it takes a lot of time and cost. But as I mentioned, the spatial temporal data is a dimensional data with the number of dimensions going up and up. The time and cost that is required to process the data will be bigger. However, recently, we created a special system, and this was adopted in the epidemiological system as well. The spatial temporal big data is in our daily lives. It can be utilized anywhere in smart city. And let me also talk about some references. There was a case in Hyundai that could reduce cost by 5,000%. And in terms of autonomous vehicle, things became faster, much more. So just in 10 minutes, about 120 cases of data were processed. So road safety service for commercial drivers is one area that can utilize this service. And also another area is fine dust and pollution analysis and prediction. As such, spatial temporal big data is in our daily lives. Wherever in smart city, these technologies can be utilized anywhere. So please, I would like to ask for your understanding, interest on this issue. So smart city, it's a very near future. So we've been talking about a lot of things like when this would be realized, but actually it's not a future city, but a city that is existing now. And these things are existing as a data type in spatial temporal data, being converged with ADA, and all these are helping your lives to become much easier. So not only Korean people, but also a lot of researchers from around the world are working very hard. So the people who are working on smart city and the people who are working on disease control and prevention, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude taking today's occasion. So I gave you a very brief introduction about our company and cave disinfection solutions. Thank you very much.
D-Tonic is one of the biggest companies since the outbreak of this unfortunate global pandemic, and they are, as you just saw, expanding their territory into all aspects of a smart city. Do we have any questions from the floor? For those of you joining us online, please reach out to Born2Global Center. We will be able to connect you with any of these companies if you're interested in working with them or interested in the details of their solutions. Let's move on to another character of a smart city that is essential. Smart cities need to embrace all of its citizens, and that includes assistance for the physically challenged, and in this case, the visually impaired. And for this, we have another innovative company that has brought solutions to the problem of embracing the visually impaired. I'm honored to introduce to you DOT. DOT?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Choi Arum from DOT. DOT was founded in 2015. This is a hardware startup. Today, a lot of tech startups are here for presentation. Our company is located in Gasandong, Kumcheongu district, and our company has been operating for 6 years. We have about 28 employees. The first product we produce are the small braille cell. This is also based on actuator. The 6 small dots refer to one braille. Over 200 million people across the world and 260,000 people in Korea with visual impairment can read letters by using this braille. The first product was DOT watch, braille smartwatch, and then we launched DOT Mini, the e-book reader, and we also came up with the second generation cell. So we produced the modules, DOT pad and DOT kiosk. I would like to talk about the 2 key technologies. The first one is the software engine. So the text can be translated into braille. We have around 13 languages available. If you visit our website and if you talk in any language, that will be translated into the braille. And the next one is the hardware technology. So our researchers produced this, and this is the photo we took in Incheon. This is ultra small and highly efficient actuator. In terms of price, we achieved great innovation, and the world has paid their attention to this actuator. And this is the existing technology produced by Germany and Japan, piezo actuator. All the piezo cells across the world are using piezo actuator, but the distance between the circles is long, so we could not draw a diagonal line across like this. And piezo actuator had higher price because their materials was ceramic. It was easy to be broken. However, our ferrite-based dot cell used cheaper and more efficient material that led to lower price with higher efficiency. We had to go through trials and errors until we launched successfully the cell. And we invested a lot in the R&D, and commercialization was very important. And in the end, we successfully commercialized our solution. And the module you see on the photo is the result of our success. This tactic or braille cell is installed in the unmanned city affairs documents issuer, bank ATM, and kiosks for placing orders on digital signage and on information desk in the airport, terminal, and so on. These are the patents we received. We have around 112 patents registered and applied for across the world. And we applied universal design. So our product can be used by people with disabilities as well as by other people in our society. I mean the elderly and any other socially disadvantaged people can easily use our products because we have universal design format. For the past 6 years, we met with many people with visual impairment, hearing impairment, and physical disabilities, and we felt that people say we are living in a smart city, but what are all these inconveniences for the socially disadvantaged people? We recognize that socially disadvantaged people still face a lot of challenges in their life, although we're saying we're living in the era of smart city. So we thought that we need to make the city more inclusive of those socially disadvantaged people. That's why we are producing these barrier-free solutions. In Korea, this is the size of Korean barrier-free market. The total number of people with disabilities amounts to about 2.6 million, and other vulnerable people, including the elderly and people including the pregnant women and people with young children, amount to much larger number. When you get in a subway with a little child, you will become the mobility handicapped. One day, if you face an accident and if you become hearing impaired, then you will become the mobility handicapped. Anyone gets old. If you become 60 years old or 70 years old, you will become the mobility handicapped. So mobility handicapped people are not someone who are born to be handicapped, but any one of us could become mobility handicapped. So we need to establish and improve policies to be more considerate of the mobility handicapped people. That photo there is the map we can see in the city hall. Can you find a restroom by just reading that map? It's almost impossible to do so. How can you locate the location of a woman's room just by reading the map? And for the elderly, kiosk is very difficult to read or understand. And as for visually impaired people, for physically handicapped people, many signages in cities are difficult to be accessed and difficult to be used. Now, across the world, a lot of countries are coming up with plans to be more inclusive of the socially disadvantaged people. For example, many governments, including Korea, announced this plan that we're going to improve the accessibility of the socially disadvantaged people to digital devices and services. So, firstly, based on core auxiliary engineering device, public infrastructure, applications, and license services are included in our business model. And for public infrastructure solution, we collaborate with other companies who provide solutions and products for physically handicapped people. This is an example of our product installed in Busan. This is barrier-free kiosk. Both the mobility handicapped and many people can easily use this. Through the tactic display, you can identify which stop you need to get off, and you can also find the location of, for example, women's room by using this kiosk. And for hearing impaired people, we installed our solution on that signage that provides voice guidance, that offers not only voice guidance but also the sign languages. We need to expand application of such kiosks for our future. So this is the photo where the visually impaired and hearing impaired people using our kiosk. And in the global market, we receive a lot of questions like this. What kind of SDG goal do you have? And we say we have number 4, number 10, and number 11. So SDG number 4 is education. We are trying to enhance education for all, trying to achieve SDG number 4 goal by supplying our tactic education solution and by providing barrier-free kiosk. We're trying to help people with visual impairment or physical disabilities to be able to access various services in the public places more easily. And these barrier-free kiosks can be installed in tourist attractions and in sports stadiums. We are currently supplying 13 languages in our solution. So our business is export-oriented business. We have 2 CEOs, 2 co-CEOs and 27 employees working together. 70% of them are engaging in R&D activities. They can speak both English and Chinese. They're meeting with various buyers across the world, explaining about our products and giving them references about Smart City. And in Shiyang City, it's my first time to come to this Seoul National University campus. I felt that this campus looks very smart, and I felt that inside the campus as well, we need to be inclusive not only of we need to be inclusive of people with disabilities as well as people who do not have disabilities. I hope that the Seoul National University campus will be such a place that is inclusive of all members of our society.
Do we have any questions from the floor? Yes, I believe we have a question. That, as you have heard, is working with a lot of global companies to bring that social integration and embracement for the visually impaired. Yes, sir.
네, 정말 귀한 어떤 사회적 기업이기도 하고 이노베이티브한.
So your company is such a valuable social enterprise, which is also innovative.
유엔이구나, WHO나 관심 있는 많은 국제기구가 있을 텐데 그런
Maybe you're interested in cooperation with international organizations like World Bank, UN, and WHO. Do you have any business model to work on public projects with such international organizations? That's what we actually wish to achieve. As for Braille Watch, it was launched 2 years ago, and we needed some time to ensure credibility of that Braille smartwatch and include it in the public infrastructure. At the beginning of this year, we started creating reference of the Braille smartwatch. The Braille smartwatch began to be applied to public infrastructure from the beginning of this year. So we will first focus on creating references in the domestic market, and then we are trying to expand across the global market. And at that time, and by that time, we may need some assistance from the UN. For now, we are collecting some opinion of the beneficiaries.
That was Ms. Choi, Director of Social Impact from DOT. Please give another round of applause. As you know, DOT has brought a very important keyword to this session, which is barrier-free. Something that I hope all the members of Smart Cities will remember. This brings us to our next company, which is called Tim Solution. Now, we are going to move from the smallest dot that we just saw to the biggest element of a smart city, which is digital twin. Team Solution has taken digital twin, a very, very complex subject, into something that is easily approachable. Here's Team Solution.
If there are two people that looks identically the same, I believe you're going to regard them as identical twins. If there's a system very complicated in front of you, and they are, it would be very convenient if they can recognize all your movements. So digital twin is what we do. So our mission is tackling impossible mission. And I'm in charge of innovation under tackling impossible missions. So the contents of my presentation is innovation trend. How has it been preceded for the last 30 years? And second, why digital twin? What I'll be talking about today is what's happening in 6 billion square shipyard. This is a very vast area, so you will find it very meaningful. So I kindly ask you to imagine while listening to my presentation. And I'll explain about how things were adopted in our customer company. So in a pandemic area like now, Terry Mullis have developed a technology named polymerase chain reaction. He won the Nobel Prize after developing this technology in 1980. And she's in the same line with a professor named Jennifer Doudna, who's also doing a similar work. So there was a sequence of a DNA, and in order to do a lot of testing, you need a lot of cells. You can't constantly extract it from human bodies. So he was thinking about, is it possible to extract one and then copy them constantly? So while he was driving with his girlfriend, at night, he came up with this idea of polymerase chain reaction, and then he also won the Nobel Prize. So he was saying that what he knew back then was something that everybody knows. Why am I the only one to get the Nobel Prize? So he was the one who invented something very special from the daily lives through his insight. And another example, Michael was living in Texas and observing these two people. Back then, sharing images was extremely popular back then. So a lot of people came to him, and Facebook back then had a feature of sharing images. However, just in 2 years after establishing the company was sold in a very big money. So if you observe what's happening around, you can innovate things, making it less complicated. And in 2010, there was a person who actually witnessed a lot of people working so hard painfully in the shipyard places. And in a game, there was people building numerous houses and building shipbuildings. So he thought that why can't he adopt the idea from the game to the shipbuilding? So in sense, you can converge a lot of civilizations, leading to new civilizations. So this is what we call innovation these days. And the professor from MIT called it recombinant innovation. So the title of my job is also innovator as well. So in this sense, innovation is not something very far away. So the solution of solving a lot of problems is what we call innovative. But then let's take a look at how things are adopted in real life. When you are moving around in shipyard, you can use these technologies, and this is a power plant in Latin America. Everything were controlled remotely by Hyundai Group. They had a technology named digital twin. Without any geological relationship, they were regarded as twin because things were controlled remotely. So why digital twin? This megastructure has a length of 200 meters and height 40 meters. So it's floating on the deep sea. It will extract oil from the deep sea, reserve it. When Korea won this war, there were a lot of difficulties because the ship was empty and there were numerous pipes and electric lines. It was extremely complicated. So there were a lot of trials and errors in the process. However, the problem is that a lot of decisions should be made fast. So how can these physical complicatedness impact the digital world?
만져지지 않는 그런 지식들, 암묵지와 명시지가 어떻게 결합되어서
How
이러한
can
복잡하고
we converge these physical and digital worlds and implicit and explicit worlds in solving the problems? This is what we call digital twin. To explain in a more abstract way, digital twin is something that helps decision making at the field. It's a way to make approaches or a framework. So the field, you can see objects with your naked eyes. It's mostly about city planners or manufacturers. So they have three-dimensional CAD. CAD data is quite heavy. So this heavy data cannot be used right away in managing the processes. There has to be some effect. Unless this 3D CAD data will not be usable. And in the site, there are a lot of things going on, such as processes. And behind that, we have Internet of Things, components management, manufacturing, research and development, lifecycle management. All the information will be sent to the people in charge, whether it's housekeeper or city manager. So how can we help them so the things will be more intuitive, to make things faster with less storage and beautiful? So next is digital twin in action. Our company has a history of only 2 years, but while carrying out like 10 projects, we could gain some knowledge. We didn't participate in design from the first phase, but if you take a look at the very bottom, you can see raw CAD. As I mentioned, this is a 3-dimension, so the data is very heavy. So you will need a very developed computer. But people cannot carry around computer. They want smartphone or tablet. So step 2 is pre-process format. And the Denmark game engine Unity is what we use on level 3. As I mentioned, technology is not something developed from the very bottom or out of nowhere. It's an innovation trend where you actually converge the existing things. So Unity has a history of 15 years, and we thought that we could adapt it to our industrial process. So we were the very first company to come up with the idea. And by putting them on industry, it will help to manage the workflow, which is level 4 value-added data set link. And after that,
필요한 백데이터와 연결하고 밑에 CAD 데이터와 연결해서 자기들이 원하는
is division logic handler. Every division or department can conduct tests or management.
부서에만 종속되면 안 되고
And everything should not be
정부 전체
possessed only by that division,
조직에
but
있는
also
모든 디비전 헤드 그리고
to all the other divisions,
최종 말단
managers, or the staff at the very bottom, or even the people at the very top, so that all the decision makings can be made very easily.
의사소통을 편리하게 해주면서 필요한 데이터를
To enhance communication, everyone can bring out the data whenever they want to. Those are the benefits of digital twin. So they can have an understanding about how things are proceeded, the complicated pipelines will be established, smart city processes will be managed. 6 million square meters of things will be working. That enormous 300 meters, 40 meters of ship will be constructed. You can find all this information even from Norway or Finland. So communication all the way to the manufacturing company, and recently Hyundai came up with a special line for it, and also SK contacted us saying that they want to adopt this process in managing semiconductors. So again, innovation can be done by anyone, not only me, but you. You can observe what's happening around you and try to connect the different contexts. So again, there can be 6 levels. You can adopt your idea into these 6 levels. So the people who are trapped in their own silo, their own arena, should break the barrier and converge with others. By doing so, whether it's smart city, smart administration, smart health, it can be applied anywhere. Thank you very much for your attention.
Team Solution. That was Mr. In-Soo Kim, Chief Recombinant Innovator of Team Solution. And thank you again for also teaching us 1 or 2 about innovation as well. Do you have some questions from the floor? Yes, sir, we have a question over here. May I remind you that Team Solution is working, as you just saw, with the largest companies in Korea because their solution has enabled and empowered a simple notebook to be able to see and manage and experience digital twin. Yes, sir.
네, 너무 좋은 프레젠테이션 감사드립니다. 너무 인사이트풀한 내용 전해주셔서 저희들이 많이
Thank you
활용할 수
very
있을
much
것
for your insightful forum. It was very interesting. The usage of digital forum, I think I'll be able to understand it very well. But wouldn't it be a problem to actually establish it? For example, let's say we're creating the whole city with a digital twin, and I think that's going to require a very big amount of cost. And even though we create such digital twin, sensor networks that can fill up the data or data pipeline are another problem. We need them. Without them, it will all be useless. It's my personal thinking, but when overcoming these costs and creating these systems, do you think it will be possible to make usage of the system? Thank you very much for your question. So the prerequisite for the data twin is data should be accessible as much as possible. That's the first one. And if you don't have any sensors or any quantitative information from the real world, you should work on that part because data is very important. So digital twin is actually architecture structure. It requires human beings' judgments. So within that structure or configuration, you will have to find out how to reduce the cost. So the amount of data would be so vast, people will be using graph, text, documents. We are not being able to optimize the process for decision making. So people should be able to have insight when reading these data. So as mentioned, if you don't have IoT, work on that first. And also start to think about how you can surface up the architecture. Thank you very much. And cost, of course, it's existing. So you should think about reutilization. It's a way of maximizing the already given investment. You have to enhance the efficiency to the maximum level.
Solution, ladies and gentlemen. That was Tim's solution for you. For those of you watching online and on the floor here, you're probably wondering, well, we're talking about smart city solutions. Why are we missing a very, very important element? And yes, you guessed it right, energy. And for that, I'm happy to invite Hylium Industries to the stage to talk about their solution. What if I told you that we had a startup in Korea that uses hydrogen fuel for drones, for mobile refueling, and for more other innovative solutions? Here's Joshua Schimpf, manager from Hylium Industries.
All right. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joshua Schimpf, and I'm here on behalf of Hylium Industries. And Hylium Industries, we focus on liquid hydrogen technologies, and today I'll be going over two of our main core technologies, one of which is our liquid hydrogen powered drones, and the others is our liquid hydrogen refueling stations. So the drone industry is a very large and booming market, and there are several hundreds of players that are trying to be the best and surpass the other manufacturers. So that imposes the question, like, what will separate one drone manufacturer from the rest? In the end, which drone manufacturer will be victorious? Well, the answer is simple. Like, the drones with the longest flight endurance will be victorious. So what separates Hylium's drones from the rest of the industry? Using hydrogen, the highest energy density element in the universe, we can power these drones and achieve the longest flight endurance times. So compared to our counterparts for lithium-ion battery power, our energy density is tenfold. So that means we can fly 10 times as longer than our counterparts. So we believe that using this perfect solution, we can apply these drones for all sorts of applications, such as military, emergency, and air taxi drones. So here's just a visual representation depicting our flight times to our competitors. As you can see, there's really no comparison. We can fly over 5 hours using liquid hydrogen power, but lithium-ion batteries can only fly up to 20 minutes. And even gas hydrogen power can only fly up to 2 hours. So here's a video clip of us demonstrating a 5-hour flight. This is the world's first hydrogen or liquid hydrogen powered multi-copter drone. Oh. Or you can reference the video on YouTube, sorry. We have another developing project going on in the US, in Boston, with a company called Alakai Technologies. They are developing the world's first air taxi that is powered by hydrogen. And depicted on the left is the model scale drone, as you can see. And we are partnered with them for developing their fuel engine or fuel supply tank using liquid hydrogen on the right side picture. So moving on to another type of hydrogen-powered vehicle, you might recognize these vehicles on the road today. They're fuel cell passenger cars. However, although these vehicles are available to be purchased, people are reluctant to buy them. You might ask why. The reason is there is a lack of refueling stations that are available for these vehicles. Simply put, nobody wants to purchase a car that they can't fill at a station. So with that in mind, Hylium has developed a mobile solution for refueling called the MHRS. This truck can carry up to 7,500 liters of liquid hydrogen on a 5-ton truck. So this capacity can fuel up to 100 vehicles per day, and this system is very simple and robust, so we can reduce the cost of a typical HRS or hydrogen refueling station by half. So we believe that this will be a more safe and efficient way to refuel hydrogen vehicle. So we also have another video that you can reference on our channel on YouTube for showcasing our MHRS and refueling a hydrogen vehicle. So moving on to our company history, we started off as a spin-off venture from KIST, the first national research lab in Korea, in Seoul. In 2014, we have cutting-edge technology for our liquid hydrogen drone power pack and our hydrogen stations. So we have registered 19 patents and have 21 patents pending, and we also have cutting-edge know-how technology for liquid hydrogen tank development. We're also recognized by a well-known or renowned committee in the US called the Russell B. Scott Memorial Award. This was for a hydrogen liquefier, and you can reference this paper online. And so up to date, we have received $10.5 million worth of investments, 4 million of which were from government R&D grants. So Hylium is very involved with government projects for developing infrastructure for hydrogen in Korea. And also, we demonstrated the world's first LH2 powered drone, as mentioned before, and we have demonstrated our HRS as well, so we are ready for serial production and beginning this early stage of developing a hydrogen economy. So this picture is our CEO on the left on our founding day, and he's with the director or president of KIST, as you can see here. As mentioned before, Hylium is involved in many R&D projects in Korea. So this is a picture of our CEO with President Park Geun-hye, and this was for a MOU for developing a hydrogen refueling station in Korea. You might recognize President Moon Jae-in in this picture. He is with our CEO. Our CEO is showcasing our liquid hydrogen powered drone, and he's describing what kind of applications this drone could be used for. Yeah, as mentioned before, we have many visits from interested local government projects. This is the Gangwon governor. He just visited our factory plant in Osan, and we showed him the development process for developing liquid hydrogen tanks. So thank you for your time and attention, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. That was Hylium Industries. Do you have any questions from the floor regarding their hydrogen-fueled drones or other technologies? By the way, Hylium Industries is working very closely with a lot of international organizations, a lot of industries, and they are trying to introduce these hydrogen-powered drones around the world. As we wait for some questions from the floor, I have a question for you. You've mentioned the time that these amazing drones can fly. How about their capacity? Because we've get a lot of requests, especially from the developing economies, in being able to move not just simple, small products, but medical supplies through drones. So how do you look at that market, and what's your technological barrier or challenges in that?
Yeah, one of our performance parameters that we judge our drones off of is called payload. So that is the weight that the drone is able to carry. So this is very critical for the drone manufacturers. typical payloads for those small-scale drones that were shown on the picture before would be up to 20 kilograms. But if a larger payload is required, we can easily increase the scale of the drone and increase the payload as well.
Great, thank you. Do you have any other questions from the floor, from the offline attendants here? Any questions from GCF? I believe GCF is here. I'm sure that drones and energy is your key area. All right. We've talked about, again, that was Joshua Schimpf from Hylium Industries. Thank you very much. We've covered 6 amazing, interesting, and innovative startups. We've started with water by the Wave Talk. We moved on to waste management by eCube Labs. And then we talked about safety, and especially safety during these turbulent times caused by the global pandemic. We've moved on to issues like barrier-free, making a society more embracing towards the visually impaired by the solution from DOT. And then we talked about something really, really big, digital twin, and how something that big can fit into a simple laptop through their innovative application and technology. And we've just seen how energy and clean energy, probably the cleanest energy on Earth, can be used to power our daily lives through drones and other things as well. I would like to just remind you that from all the startups that you've seen today, that if you are interested again, please look us up, Born2Global Center, or respective company web pages. Especially, we have different support programs and government consultation programs, as well as Born2Global's own, to assist in matching you, the online viewers, with the companies that we've presented today. This brings us to the very last company that we have prepared for smart cities. And we've talked about all aspects that a smart city should have. But let's take it to the highest level we can possibly go with the current technology, which is space. Would you believe me if there was a startup in Argentina called Satellogic, which was the very first prize winner of the Korea Latin America Startup Pitch Competition. And joining us from all the way from Buenos Aires, Argentina, which I believe is around 3:41 in the morning, we have Luciano Gieso, Sales Director of Satellogic. Please, Luciano.
All right, so thank you very much. Sorry that I wasn't speaking. There seemed to be some connection problem. My name is Luciano Gieso. I'm Sales Director for Satellogic. So thank you very much, Born2Global and the Seoul National University and everybody else involved in the organization of this event for having me here. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what Satellogic is. We're a geospatial analytics company. Let me share my screen here. We were founded back in 2010, so 10 years ago, by 2 entrepreneurs that came from the software industry. So these 2 guys were from Argentina. We're an Argentinian company, and we are based now in another 5 countries. So we are in 6 countries overall. We're about 200 employees in terms of headcount today. And we have different disciplines spread amongst the different cities where we operate. The engineering team, as well as headquarters, is in Argentina. There's, the engineers, the physics, the mathematicians who are behind the creation of each satellite that we launch are all in Argentina. Our manufacturing facility is in Montevideo, in a neighboring country in Uruguay. Then we have our data science team that makes sense out of the images that we obtain from our satellites in Barcelona, Spain. We have our software development team in Tel Aviv, Israel. We have a sales and development team for the Chinese market in Beijing. And then we have an office of finance in Charlotte in the US and another sales office in Miami. So we have had to date a number of private sector investors. We have raised more than $110 million to date. And we have we have 11 satellites in orbit right now, and we're about to launch another 10 in a week. So we're going to almost duplicate the number of satellites that we launched in the first 10 years in a single launch. This is because we're very fastly developing new satellites, and we have a lot of intellectual property put into them. To date, we have had 8 patents granted in different places in the world, 6 in the US, 1 in Europe and another one in Japan. We have another 32 patents awaiting granting. And we have a number of inventions today, about 15, who will go through the patenting process shortly. So we are very, very much interested in keeping the technology that we do. We build our satellites at a very, very low cost. And we want to, and because we're vertically integrated in the fabrication of those satellites, we want to really keep our technology safe and patented. That's why we do so much granting of patents all over the world every time. So this is a bit of how our satellites look. To give you an idea, they're about the size of a chair. They're 40 kilograms in weight and about 1 meter high and 15 centimeters in each of the sides. They're equipped with 2 cameras, all of them. One is a multispectral camera, submetric. We're doing 99 centimeters resolution in this camera, and we're going down and down in every generation that we launch. And we have, in one of the extra bays that you see over here, we have a hyperspectral camera that has 29 bands and 30 meter resolution. And then we have a hosted payload bay. I'm going to tell you a bit what this is in a couple of slides, but the satellites are basically, they orbit in a low Earth orbit, sun-synchronic, about 475 kilometers from Earth. And they're purposely short-lived. So they live only 3 to 4 years because we want the technology in space to remain for as long as you keep your phone or your computer with you. We don't want satellites to be there orbiting for 10, 15 years, but we build them for them to just have enough butane in the tanks to support 3 to 4 years, for the batteries to last only that long, and everything else, because we really want for the satellite to be replenished, and we want new satellites replacing the old ones all the time and have technology always updated. So these are the 10 that, as I told you at the beginning, we're launching in about a week. This is how they looked when they were, ready to ship to the launching facility from our manufacturing facility. They're all named, and we have done this with the last 5 satellites that we launched. They're all named after women in science. You can see their pictures here. Some of them are Alice Ball, or Hera Rubin, or Cora Rato, our first Argentinian scientific woman that we put a name to a satellite with her name. So we are launching these 10 on November 6th. It's going to be the first time that a rocket only carries our satellites that are going to be here. To date, we had launched only 1 or 2 satellites per time. Launching 10 altogether is a big step. This is because we're building them 3 a month. We're 1 every 3 months. We're a very fast pace in building a satellite. We're moving to building 1 per month by the end of next year. But it's a big milestone for us to be launching 10 altogether at this time. So what we do with the satellites is basically 4 things. We have 4 basic offerings. The first one, and more obvious, is imagery. We have launched some agreements with distribution companies at different places of the world. This one is European, this one is for Latin America, and this was in Japan. We have another conversations going on with other companies. We haven't tied down an agreement for a distribution service in Korea, so we'd be happy to do so. And after we process, after we take the images, the next offering that we have is AI solutions, is applying artificial intelligence to the images and make sense out of them. To tell a farmer where a given crop is growing better, or to tell a city where they're having an urban sprawl. I'm going to give some examples in what we can do for cities later in the presentation. The third product that we have is this that we call dedicated satellite constellations. It's a space as a service, or a satellite as a service. It's using our satellites as if they were operated by a given country, with every ground segment component of what a country would want from a known satellite, but using it only for the time that the satellite is orbiting above their area of interest, or above the the frontiers of the country. So I'm going to get into that a bit in a couple of slides too. And the last one is this that we call hosted payload program, which is carrying sensors from third parties in our satellites. To give you a bit of examples of the 4 offerings that I just mentioned, these are just some images. This one is from a part in Seoul, from South Korea. This one is from a certain area in South Africa. It's interesting how they have circular fields, which is not as common here in Latin America, at least. This is a mining facility in Botswana, in Africa. This is the coast of Rio in Brazil. So these are the kind of multispectral images that we obtain. The solutions that we do are based for, they're done for many, many different industries. Here are the main ones. Because the markets that we target are mostly agricultural, we're talking mostly to Latin America, African and Asian markets. And there's many agricultural countries in those continents. Then we have a lot of contracts today that have to do with agriculture and forestry. Then we have some, we have some penetration in energy, especially in oil and gas. And then the more or less, I would say 80% of the countries and contracts and companies that we're talking to today are more in the public sector than they are in the private sector. So for the public sector, we do everything else that you see here. Plus some other applications, we get new challenges every day. This is the dedicated satellite constellation offering that I mentioned some minutes ago. Basically, it's giving a country the ability to operate a constellation of our satellites while the satellites are above their land. And by operating, we build a control facility in country. We teach them how to test our satellites. We give them a local ground station if they want to download data in their own country. And we put the data science applications team, as part of the service to give them also the results of the images they obtain, not just the images, but, reports on what can be done with them. We were nominated last year as a Satellite Technology of the Year by an international publication called Via Satellite, which is the main publication in satellite, affairs worldwide. And this was a confirmation that this kind of service makes sense. So it was a good thing to learn that we are on the right path with this kind of service. We have already engaged with a couple of countries that are using our satellites in this mode. And last but not least, this is the hosted payload program, where we host different sensors that third parties or universities want to put in orbit, but don't have the satellites to do it. So this is how the service works. We basically have a bay here in the back of the satellite below one of the propulsion tanks that can carry about 2U in CubeSat terminology of a payload. So we have tried different sensors to date, and we're developing and co-developing different sensors with not only private sector, but also universities around the world. To give you an idea of what our roadmap is and where we'll be in the short term and the next 5 years, by the end of the year, we'll have 13 satellites that will be actually operating commercially. We plan to have 300 by 2025. The idea is to be able to daily remap the whole planet or to revisit points of interest up to 60 times per day. Today, we are, by the end of the year after this launch, we'll be at 3 revisits per day, which is 1 every 8 hours for anywhere in the world, which is very, very frequent. But we really plan to sort of looking at the Earth on real time. There's other characteristics of the satellites that will be improving over time as well. As I told you, we are doing submetric imagery in multispectral capabilities, but we're going each time more submetric, trying to reach the minimum threshold of civil use. Our satellites are not for military use. We only use them for civilian uses. And the lower threshold in terms of ground sample distance is 30 centimeters. So that's where we want to reach. Okay, and I did this this little annex at the end to give you some ideas, because I was told that Siehung is interested in knowing what we could do or what companies could do for cities and for smart cities initiatives. So these are some ideas, and contracts that we have in place for other cities that could apply for Siehung and South Korea, other cities in South Korea. So one thing that we do is urbanization monitoring. This is applying, revisiting a given city or a given area of a city with certain frequency, and looking at the augmentation of buildings, help in doing census estimations or urban sprawl estimations in terms of how many people there are based on, the growth of the buildings that we see. This is another example. We're monitoring different facilities that have both ships and planes. This picture is with port operations, where we're looking at container movement, and what we're doing is based on this, monitoring with a given frequency what the movements on a given port are, but it could apply also to airport or ships docked in ports, or or anything that would have to do with nodes or airports, ports, railways, etc. This is green areas monitoring. This is seen in cities as well, and we're doing this for a couple of cities here in Argentina, where we're looking at green spaces and terrain conditions to build more green spaces or green reserves. There is a tendency that we see in many cities to preserve each time more, the green spaces that they have. So we look at changes and monitor, the state of things and probable places that could be turned into green spots for a couple of cities. As I told you, in Argentina, we're doing this for this one in Madrid as well. And last but not least, this is about urban planning. We have a couple of contracts where we're looking at distinction of different types of soil. They typically apply more for, for open areas than they do for cities. But in this case, this is a pilot project that we're doing where we're distinguishing industrial buildings and residential buildings from green spaces and forestry and agricultural spaces. And this is another thing, with a given monitoring, we can look for changes in areas like this with different kinds of soils. So that's that. I hope I was within my time. I hope the microphone is open on your side so that I can answer questions if you have any. My contact information is on the screen. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was Luciano Gesso from Satellogic. Please, another round of applause for joining us at 3:40 or 4 o'clock in the morning from Buenos Aires.
Thank you very much. Thank you. No problem for that.
Luciano, I wish you could see the faces of our offline attendants and the amazement that they have for the breakthrough technology and the application of satellite technology. But I can assure you they are pretty amazed. And Koreans don't get amazed that easily. Do you have any questions from the floor for Satellogic? We have a question. Yes, sir.
예, 굉장히 흥미로운 정보 잘 들었습니다.
That was a very interesting information.
Satellogic
So in Satellogic,
어떻게
you are providing a lot of data. So
어떤 방식으로 쉐어가 되는지.
how do you share these data? What kind of cost policies do you have regarding the data?
Luciano, one question from the audience is the data that you provide through your satellite network and your processing. How are they, in terms of the methodology, how are they offered or provided to the potential partners or users? Does it go by a pricing method or is there an application? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, so we have different flavors depending on the contract. The data is provided typically interacting with the GIS for API, through APIs with the geoimaging software that the client would have. We provided on, different tiers depending on number of images. If it's a contract where we're doing some kind of service over the images, we commit to a given frequency, say weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, of whatever is to be revisited with the frequency needed. So it really depends on each of the contracts, but we have multiple types of contracts, some where we provide imagery only, and others where we provide services on, above the imagery that we obtain.
Thank you very much, Luciano. Any more questions from the floor? We have one more question for you. Can you hang on a bit more?
Okay, thank you, Luciano. And I have a question on, how you deal with the regulatory kind of, boundaries, because satellite image and all these informations are very important, national security and commercialization of the information services, and contracts are sometimes very, very difficult. And how, when you are actually doing big global business model with your satellite information and system, how do you deal with the kind of commercializing and also making a contract, with global community, not only Latin America, but in other countries? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for your question. So we are regulated, we abide by a number of regulations that basically have to do with the entities that depend on the United Nations. So we basically abide by treaties and and standards that are organized and ruled by the United Nations. We also abide from some things that are ruled by NASA. And we have a couple of our own manifest. And I mentioned when I said that we're not into military use, we don't provide images of a country to another. We stay in country with the services that we provide. So, and we have contracts in every continent today, and we are very, very thoughtful, and we look at every agreement that we do and every kind of client that we have, not to get, we say a bit joking, but we don't want to start any war. And as you mentioned, you have to be cautious, because looking at images from space, you could get into, into somebody using them for something that we don't want them to use them. So it's a bit of how we stick to regulations of the entities that I mentioned, but also our own manifest, our own policy as a company to use space to democratize access to data and help in distributing natural resources. But not ever to engage in any military or anything that any activity that could contribute to a military conflict or anything like that.
Thank you, Luciano. We hope that we will be able to build partnerships between companies or with you and our municipalities in the days to come. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. That was Luciano from Satellogic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This brings us to the end of the session, Innovative Deep Tech Solutions for Smart Cities. For the past 110 minutes, we've taken you on a trip through the future of what a smart city would look like. We looked at basic necessities like water, waste, safety, barrier-free. We also looked at some breakthrough areas such as digital twin and energy and even satellite. We believe that the policymakers in Korea and also our online viewers were impressed by their technologies, by their ideas, and will continue to work with the companies and with us in building the most innovative smart cities around the world. Also, I hope that this session helped to serve and have you understand that innovation is not far away. These are the entrepreneurs. These are the startups that we work with every day. And if you want to see more, please reach out to the Born2Global Center, to the Seoul National University. We will be more than happy to share with you our most recent breakthroughs and innovations that will ultimately improve the way we live and the future of this globe. That brings us to the end of this session. The GSDV 2020 will resume at 16:20 Korea Standard Time for a joint session between the Green Climate Fund and the Seoul National University. Again, this was Born2Global, and I was Seokjin Chang. Thank you very much.